Hello everybody, this is BadHelp24 here, and we are back with some more The Theorizer Pixar Theory number 2. If you missed it, we reacted to the first part of this with Twisted Nest of Pixar, followed by the Roz Trilogy Theory, which, by the way, is actually really fucking cool and insane, and I can kind of see it. If you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it now, but we are heading away from Monsters, Inc., and we're going into the other movie that is in this duology theory, The Incredibles. And we're gonna hit it off with, who are Syndrome's parents in The Incredibles? Syndrome Part 1. Apparently this theory is fucking cool as well. Apparently this theory gets deep into the lore of Syndrome and Incredibles. And I'm fucking ready for it. I'm awesome. It's awesome. Did I just say I'm awesome? I don't know. Yes. The Incredibles.
And I've made a couple of videos on it already. One where I tried calculating the maximum strength of their powers, and one where I combined the theories of a dozen other theorists to create a grand concept of Syndrome's plan. But today, upon watching a few videos by the YouTubers Super Carlin Brothers, scanning through the comments...
Those guys are prevalent in a lot of these theories. They're kind of, I think, besides the Theorizer, they're the masterminds of, creating Pixar theories, because Super Carlin Bros and the Theorizer that are kind of pioneering these Pixar theories and the whole idea that every Pixar movie is connected, which kind of makes sense. It does make sense.
Sections of multiple different videos of mine and diving into the deep depths of Reddit fan theories, I figured something out that may or may not work for the movie, but regardless, it is cool.
Here we go. Let's hear it. Who are Syndrome's parents? And the lore behind Syndrome.
Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and today I have something good for you. It's something. So I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, then you've seen The Incredibles.
Yes.
Anyways, Syndrome, a character who honestly is intricate, well thought out, and brilliant.
Yeah, Syndrome is really, is a really cool character, because you have to think, the idea of Syndrome came from a lot of things, and the fact that he's so well thought out, he is the textbook definition of a villain. We see him as young with Mr. Incredible and Wonder Boy, or whatever his fucking name is. Mr. Incredible does something to him, which causes him to not... I don't know, I haven't seen Incredibles in a while, but all I know is that there was an interaction with him and Syndrome at a young age, causing Syndrome to have this pure hatred for Mr. Incredible. That right there alone, that backstory leading up into, it's sort of like a mini backstory for the villain, and I was all for it. It's fucking awesome.
Perhaps a little too brilliant? Perhaps he is a superhero, but not in the typical sense. Perhaps he has super intellect, and this is why he can rise through the ranks of the government and get filthy rich at such a young age.
I mean,
this
true.
Is a theory which so many people have considered that it's actually scary. A few months ago, I considered this as a possibility when analyzing a ton of Pixar movies at once. I binge theorized Monsters, Inc., Ratatouille, and I was going to do The Incredibles, but I've been saving it for a while. Then, I read some YouTube comments of people asking if Syndrome's intellect could be considered.
Making super intelligent.
And I thought I could add to this concept.
Yeah, where did the name come from?
Reddit user DRIKU12
and a few others
said it quite well. But there are a couple of...
So, the main theory that he is talking about is Syndrome is a super, not a villain. Syndrome's a super, but he doesn't know it? Because apparently they say that he has Down syndrome, which is why he's named Syndrome. I guess we'll find out more evidence to back this up, I guess.
I think need changing up, which is finally leading me to share my theory on the topic.
Ooh.
The person who wrote it claimed that Syndrome's telekinetic power is weakened due to him having Down syndrome. I disagree. As the top commenter on this post pointed out, it is very likely that Syndrome's name is based off of hero syndrome.
Okay, hero syndrome is a phenomenon affecting people who seek heroism or recognition, usually by creating a desperate situation which they can resolve. This can include unlawful acts such as arson. Oh shit. Yeah, he created a robot to then destroy a city just so that he could come in and defeat his own robot. But no one has to know that he made the robot. They just know that there's a fucking robot that's terrorizing the city. Syndrome comes in, defeats, or quote-unquote defeats the robot, because he made it, he'll know how to defeat it, and to everyone else, he's the hero. To the Incredibles, they know the truth. They know that he created a disaster just to save everyone, in big, giant quotations. Which makes sense.
A phenomenon that affects people who want recognition to the point of creating a dire situation just to resolve it.
Yeah, they create situations to resolve it.
Reddit. But now it's my turn to look at this from a whole different perspective.
Okay.
First, we have to ask the legitimate question.
Yes.
Does Syndrome actually know he's a super, or is he hiding it so that he doesn't appear as a hypocrite? Keep in mind that supers don't have to be heroes, they can also be villains.
Yeah.
But does he actually know that he is one? Well, let's look
Probably
at
not.
Syndrome doesn't appear to care. All he knows is that he's smart, that he can easily create powerful weapons and devices.
Of course.
When Mr. Incredible asks if Syndrome killed tons of heroes just to pretend to be one, Syndrome denies it, telling Bob that he's real enough to defeat the heroes. He says that he did it without the special gift of superpowers. So it appears like this boy, who I will forever refer to as Buddy from now on,
Buddy is
isn't
real name,
quite
yeah.
aware of the power he contains, the intellect. My question is, how would Syndrome be a super unless both his parents were? And here's where we need to dive deep into
That's the question. Who are his parents?
Superhero reproduction works. So everybody assumed that Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl had children with completely different powers.
Yeah.
But that isn't true. Not entirely, at least. You see, Dash has powers which are sort of like a mix of both his parents. He has his mother's agility plus his father's strength, making him a mix between both. If you check the Incredibles bonus disc,
Okay. Wait, hold on.
Elastigirl's stats put her at full agility, and Bob's strength is maxed out. And what do you get when you mix strength and agility? Speed.
Yeah, speed.
Boom. Dash solved.
You get Dash.
Jack can also be explained off as his powers are still developing, but Violet, she's the odd one out.
Yeah, Violet's the only outlier. I noticed that in the movie. Violet is the only one that doesn't have Mr. Incredible's strength or Mrs. Incredible's agility and flexibility. She has like these weird, like invisibility and like shielding powers, which isn't apparent in any of the other family.
Not only does she have two powers, but neither of them have any
Yeah.
relation to her parents. And another factor is her genetics. They make no sense. Unless she dyed her hair, it's only
So
possible
who's
that she was
Violet?
adopted.
His
That's a
parents.
theory for an entirely different video, but it does arise the question, did the Incredibles adopt Violet because her real parents were superheroes who were in danger? Perhaps killed by Syndrome? As I said, that's for a totally different...
Yeah, that's a big claim there, and I'm interested to see where that heads. We'll probably see that in another video. I don't know. But we have two more Syndrome theories, and then we have the Incredibles 2 theory, Incredibles 1 theory, Baby Smitty theory, which I'm excited for. I know that I've been talking about it in every single video up to this point, but Baby Smitty theory. I'm gonna say it again. I will be reacting to the Baby Smitty theory live on my channel. Bad at Hell 24 on my Twitch. Go follow it if you want to get notified for when I do this massive theory reaction. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. 35 to 36 minutes of just straight theory, and I'm gonna be pausing a lot like this video, so it's gonna be drawn out even longer.
But what we get from this interesting observation is that Syndrome can only be a superhero if one of his parents is.
Yeah.
Based off of Dash, we can assume that a super child will be about half as powerful in a certain area. Dash is half as powerful as Helen and half as powerful as Bob, but it's only because he shares both of their powers.
Yeah.
So if Buddy had a father or a mother who had superb brain powers, then he should as well, but to half the extent.
Yeah.
This is unless, of course, both of his parents were intellectual supers, and thanks to the special bonus disc I actually bought, we can figure out if any of the supers he killed match the description of his parents.
Let's see.
But before we start, I want to point something out.
Yes?
YouTubers, the Super Carlin brothers, made an interesting observation. That Syndrome clearly has daddy issues.
Does he have some massive daddy issues?
Does he?
Absolutely.
Am I good enough now? You can't count on anyone, especially your heroes.
Make sure his mom knows what he's been doing.
I'll be a bigger hero than you ever were.
That he looks up to Mr. Incredible as more of a father figure than a friend. Almost like he's attempting to compensate for the father who's never around. Both Ben and Jay concluded that his father may be working for the government, and that Syndrome may have inherited his intelligence.
Yeah.
There's another option here. That his father's never home because he's out fighting crime. Unbeknownst to Buddy, of course. And this all comes in a full circle when you look at what Mr. Incredible knows about Buddy's family. He tells the cops to inform Buddy's mom about his antics.
Yeah,
implying that he knows
not his dad.
about his family. And if you watched my other theory, then you know that I'm almost certain Buddy had a direct tie to the government, or in the least, the NSA. Which, yes, I know stands for the National Security
Yes, I've
Agency.
watched that Ratatouille theory.
But I actually found direct confirmation on Disc 2, which definitively said that it actually stands for the
National Supers Agency.
So I was pretty close with my old video, but for even more proof that Syndrome's affiliated with the NSA, look no further than the fact that he has literally all of their files.
He
and
does!
The same computer, but more on that in a minute. I think he stole it. So let's look at these bonus features and find superheroes who are buddies.
Because I never had this bonus disc. I've only had the one disc. So this will be interesting to see, because I've never had this second bonus disc, at least I don't think.
So right off the bat, when we play the clip for the superhero Downburst, we hear similarities to Syndrome.
My powers are atomic density manipulation, abilities to reshape matter. Say you have a cut or a boo-boo on your arm, I can, I can probably do something about that. I'm not exactly a Band-Aid. I'm a little bit better than that. I'll actually heal it.
The nerdiness they both share.
Yeah.
Downburst's powers were forming matter, healing, shaping, and building things. Building sounds a bit like Buddy's hobby.
Yeah, it sounds like...
Move on to the next candidate. Everseer is a good candidate. He has powers of intelligence and telekinesis, but it says he's terrified of women. Gamma Jack, on the other hand, is a ladies' man, so we know he'd most definitely be with a girl of some sort when having Syndrome. The hero Psych Wave has the highest intelligence, and therefore fits as the mother. Mr. Incredible acts like he knows.
So maybe it's Psych Wave and...
all of them. But then, I noticed something else. A superhero known as Universal Man has the power of atomic density manipulation. The ability to change things' size, mass, and manipulate the atoms of anything. This is just like Downburst, but on a much larger scale.
It is.
And far more similar to Buddy. The creation of zero-point energy is something Buddy assumed he could just do. But when you look at the evidence of his father, who had powers that parallel this exactly, that's when things get spooky. And notice how he was the first one Buddy killed.
Yeah, he was! I forgot that, because when Mr. Incredible's going through all those little things here, the first man that is terminated, Universal Man, he was killed by the Omnidroid, version 1, which is, as we know, Syndrome's very first creation. So, Syndrome killed this person, who the Theorizer is saying might be Syndrome's dad.
The first one. Maybe Buddy did know more than his parents led him to believe. And this hero was the only one without a secret identity, leading me to believe that his prolonged absence from home may perhaps be a factor in Buddy's sad childhood. Daddy issues epitomized. So this is getting really deep and cool.
It is.
But it leads me to one question.
Yeah.
Did Buddy truly eliminate all of the supers, or did he just think he did? Kind of like how he thought he killed Bob Parr. This is thought-provoking.
It is.
For another video. And
Yeah.
you know, all of this super stuff is really cool, but after all of this research, I discovered something on the bonus disc, which is actually what prompted me to make this whole video.
Yeah?
It 100%
Oh?
confirms the theory that Buddy had the government's files, but does not mean that he was working with them. It also proves that Buddy's mother may be Psychwave. Do you want to have an epic mind blow?
Yes.
Get a load.
Let's hear it.
The bonus disc explains that various heroes formed groups.
Yes.
One in particular is known as the
Phantasmics.
It has Macro Burst, Plasma Bolt, and it did have Geyser Beam until Everseer took over his position. But there's one.
It also has.
Team. You guessed it, Psychwave.
What?
And you will not believe where their headquarters are located.
Where?
They are located on a secret mid-ocean island. Sound familiar? When Syndrome killed his parents, he discovered their information on the secret base, which he then took power of, giving him all of the information on the NSA.
Yes.
This funded his plans, let him build inventions, and pursue a life in superability. Notice the order in which the supers are eliminated.
Yeah.
First, it's
First,
Universal Man,
yeah.
which would make sense if it was someone close to him. Then, Psychwave, someone he'd also be close to. And
Yeah.
how on Earth could he defeat a freaking psychic? Unless he inherited some of her power, that is. The next one is Everseer, the next person on the team of the Phantasmics. And another on the team. It just keeps going. And it all makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Now we know why.
He killed the Phantasmics.
In the deleted scenes, Syndrome said supers shouldn't breed because it can lead to a generation that could turn dark. You condescending,
Syndrome.
sarcastic little brat. Buddy Pine, sociopathic supervillainous mastermind, genocidal batshit psychotic misanthrope, introverted corrupted fanboy from hell, the greatest villain from the greatest animation in history. A person who, even as a boy, seemed to somehow know everything about supers, including their breeding. He wasn't just a fan of Mr. Incredible. And what a last name.
Pine.
Like, pine as in, to suffer a mental decline because of a broken heart.
Yep.
Boom. Theorizer out.
Well, let's react to the entire trilogy in one video. Let's react to the entire trilogy in one video. Let's fucking go. Fucking go, dude.
Wow. It was not that long ago that I made my Incredibles theory, but I must say...
Oh yeah, well,
it was
a couple
probably
months.
one of my favorite theories to make. I had the perfect music and effects for it, and that's primarily why it's one of my favorite videos.
Even though this is in 2017, the quality of video is fucking amazing. Theorizer has been putting out quality content for years at this point, so, I mean, kind of do something right when you have almost 900,000 subscribers. I mean, I shouldn't have to say it, but go sub to this guy. Please go sub to this dude. His theories are mind-blowing, as you're seeing right now in this Pixar theory.
On a lot of part 2 videos recently, I really want to take a good look at this one again. And no, I'm not talking about the part to do with Syndrome being a superhero. I'm talking about the massive mind blow I dropped at the very end.
The mind blow about Syndrome's parents.
Watch that video immediately if you haven't yet,
and
then return to this one, because I'm about to present more evidence for the theory that Syndrome's Island was the sole result of a methodical hijacking.
yes. And we've seen that before. And whatever. Anthologists? I don't know.
Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and don't you just love the comment section? Recently, I've been pushing the boundaries of my haters, responding to the hate with even sassier sass, and it's fun to see the haters indulge in self-triggering, but the comments are also useful for more than just entertaining flame wars. They're really good for the insightful people who help with evidence. Most of the time, I'll just pin the comments that have great evidence, but this time, I found such a useful comment on Syndrome Part 1 that I absolutely have to share it with you, because of just how much it changes things for my little island theory. Remember my Lorax video?
No.
It wasn't my best work, but the mini-theory inside of it about Ted's grandpa was some of my best work. And remember when I got a comment on that video that was so amazing that I made a video about that comment all by itself? Well, today, a similar situation has risen.
Okay.
A commenter named Grant Rogers commented something very useful to my theory, which I actually couldn't believe I missed the first time around. Before I present their evidence, I quickly want to recap this little theory I had. I will now show you a clip, which is a couple of minutes long, which is from the end of my other theory.
Okay.
Here it is.
Show the clip.
After all of this research, I discovered something on the
We've seen this.
which is actually what prompted me to make this whole video. It 100% confirms the theory that Buddy had the government's files, but does not mean that he was working with them. It also proves that Buddy's mother may be Psychwave. Do you want to have an epic mind blow? Well, get a load of this. The bonus disc explains that various heroes formed groups. One in particular is known
The Phantasmics.
It has Macro Burst, Plasma Bolt, and it did have Geyser Beam until Everseer took over his position. But there's one final member to this team. You guessed it, Psychwave. And you will not believe where their headquarters are located. They are located on a secret mid-ocean island. Sound familiar? My theory is that when Syndrome killed his parents, he discovered their information on the secret base, which he then took power of, giving him all of the information on the NSA. This funded his plans, let him build inventions, and pursue a life in supervillainy. Notice the order in which the supers are eliminated.
I'm not talking about this so that you guys can...
Which would make sense if it was someone close to him. Then, Psychwave, someone he'd also be close to. And how on earth could he defeat a freaking psychic? Unless he inherited some of her power, that is. The next one is Everseer, the next person on the team of the Phantasmics. Then another on the team. It just keeps going, and it all makes sense. Thanks to the bonus disc, I blew my own mind.
And it blew my mind too.
Smithereens when I figured this out. But then came this comment. Grant Rod.
Okay. He's probably gonna read it, but I'll read it out myself. This explains why Geyserbeam knew the password to the computer, because he was part of a group who owned the island. But I have a question. Why did he write the password on the cave walls if he knew that someone would find them? I will tell you, because he saw Syndrome's plans for other supers, and not one of the supers to be strong like him and his teammates. The reason why I'm saying all this, because the password is what led Mr. Incredible back to the facility, which would lead to his capture. Well, you remember how after he was in captivity, Syndrome said that he hid behind the body of a dead super? How would he know this could it be that the drone that was sent to find Mr. Incredible did see him, which let Syndrome know that Mr. Incredible will see the password and, like I said, would have captured him. Why do I bring this up? This is proof that Syndrome is seriously intelligent and a master planner, says Puppet Master.
Rogers pointed out how Geyserbeam was found dead in the cave, but that he somehow knew the password to the house. Everybody, to this day, seemed to be confused as to how Geyserbeam knew the password. Even on the wiki, all it says is that he got it through an unknown method. But now, more than ever, is it completely transparent. Geyserbeam was one of the original members on the team of the Phantasmics, before Everseer, of course, took over his position as leader. But if he originally was on the team, he'd know about their computers.
Yeah, he'd know about the computer and the password.
Geyserbeam was kicked out by Everseer, but more on that in a second. Grant Rogers also goes on about how Geyserbeam wrote Kronos onto the cave walls because he learned about Syndrome's plans from the hijacked computer and left the password there for other supers to find when they inevitably became threatened by Buddy. Grant also mentions that Buddy kept the password on the wall along with Geyserbeam's corpse just so that he could recapture Mr. Incredible and other supers after they learned the truth.
Okay.
Now that is serious psychological manipulation and misanthropy, and it makes sense. Syndrome didn't even check behind the bones and look at Mirage. She didn't second guess the grunt after Mr. Incredible moved the Tiki statue. but apparently, a minor little beeper sets off hundreds of sticky balls.
How?
But how did Gazer Beam get there? Let's see. We know that after the laws against supers, Gazer Beam went into hiding, and that he protested a bit, and then he was lured back by Buddy Pine. Now, you may be asking, well, wouldn't Gazer Beam be suspicious that he was going right back to his old island? The answer is
no.
Not at all, because notice who Mirage poses as. A government representative
He
who
does.
claims she has ties to the NSA.
Yeah.
And when the supers were all forced into hiding, all of the bases would immediately be taken by the government. It all makes complete and total sense. And remember, Gazer Beam had no idea that it was hijacked to begin with, because for some reason, he left their team long ago. Another question you may be asking is, why didn't Syndrome change the password? And my response to that would be that, he savagely murdered every single super who he thought knew the password. He wouldn't need to hide anything.
Yeah.
He'd be the
I mean, he wouldn't need to change it if he killed everyone that knew the password. But he didn't think about Gazer Beam writing the password on the cave wall for Mr. Incredible to see. Because why would he? Why would you need to worry about some random ass cave with the password on it? Why? There's no need to worry. Gazer Beam's dead. He knew the password. Why would you have to worry about him telling Mr. Incredible when he's dead? Really? Really? Mirage posed as a government official, lured Gazer Beam to the island, and then Buddy axed him because he knew about the fucking password to the computer. Makes sense why everyone who was linked with that team died, because he didn't want anyone to know about the fucking password to then be able to look at all of these goddamn files. Syndrome is pretty fucking smart if you didn't catch on already.
Would know. Next to, of course, his accomplice.
In the NSA, also want to let know the fantastic computer was not strictly on the NSA's computer. Yes.
And the reason Syndrome knew the password in the first place is because, again, of the parents he had torn to shreds.
Again, yeah.
Commenter Sir Salot pointed out the symbolism between the Greek titan Kronos and my theory on Syndrome are quite similar. A boy who is weak in comparison to his father rises up and defeats him, taking place as ruler. Sounds awfully
It
familiar.
sounds like Syndrome.
But finally, why did Gazer Beam leave? Why leave a perfectly good team and move to another one? Well, for that, we must consult the bonus disc again.
Bonus disc
That
yet
Gazer
again?
Beam and Everseer never saw eye to eye, which is hilariously punny when you think about it. But the point is, Gazer Beam wouldn't allow another member, or perhaps someone so overpowered.
But then Danny got died, yeah.
A position as leader was needed on his team. Apparently, his team was the most famous supers team ever.
Not Super's game.
That was when Gazer Beam quit the Phantasmics and joined these guys. And along with their new leader, Gazer Beam, the team had Apogee and Phalange. Apogee could control gravity, and Phalange could manipulate sonic fields. The Thrilling Three, they were called, and that's Gazer Beam's whole story. But it's a good one. And I mean, look at No Manison Island. Just look at it.
It's
Even
an...
down to the underwater entrance. This island looks a lot like a superhero hideout.
It does.
It doesn't really give off an evil vibe until we learn the truth about Syndrome. These clues, they're all just too perfect. But it really makes you wonder, why would all these people work for Syndrome? Sure, they might get money, but why would Mirage stay as his lover and accomplice for so long? Why is any of his plan sane to them? Well, think about it. Syndrome already did develop artificial intelligence capable of feeling, which he spread throughout all parts of the island.
Okay.
And even gave his planes literal life with robots who controlled them, AI. An AI which turned on him in the end, much like Mirage did. Even her name, almost like she's not quite real. What is it she tells Mr. Incredible?
What?
My name is Mirage. We have something in common. According to the government, neither of us exist.
Ooh.
But that's
Wait.
a theory for an entirely different day, and I don't want to blast myself into a coma if I blow my mind too hard. So that's my epic theory. I hope you were mind blown at least a little bit, but not too badly. I've gotten frequent complaints from people who had to clean up the mess produced by a blown mind, so be careful. But until next time, I'm the Theorizer.
And until then, we get to see that theory unfold with part 3 of Syndrome.
A psychotic little child who grew up a genius idiot. How's that for an oxymoron? In my last 2 videos on Syndrome, I have delved into his antics, the secrets behind his amazing plan, his parents, and I've successfully solved his whole life story in the best grand theory on the whole channel. Watch those 2 videos before this one, because today we close this trilogy of theories with the solution to one question. Why would people like Mirage and henchmen actually work for Syndrome?
Yeah.
They all could just be paid hefty money, but the henchmen, they all act identically, they all seem so one-sided and bland, and they don't really care that Syndrome is as sociopathic as he is. So, what's going on here?
There's something going on there. Let's find out what's going on there, yeah.
Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and I really like The Incredible, so in honor of the sequel, I'm solving the first movie one final time. For those who fail to recollect my past videos, I'll briefly recap. Syndrome is the son of 2 supers, one of which is likely Psychwave, a superhero whose profile you can find in the side features of this movie's bonus disc. Syndrome, also known by his real name,
Buddy Pine,
possibly killed both of his super parents, and then he usurped their superhero base on Nomanison Island, where he proceeded to slaughter all of the other supers on their team, using his incredible intellect spawned from his mother's psychic abilities. A hero known as Gazer Beam was amongst one of the supers who Syndrome lured back to the island, and we
killed.
learn on the bonus disc that Gazer Beam used to be on the same superhero team who owned the island, until he was kicked out by the other members. Upon Gazer Beam's death, he used his laser to carve the supercomputer's password on the
Kronos.
wall. Syndrome had no reason to change the password after his takeover, since not only did the code word match his plans and life story, but it also wasn't something anyone would have had access to anyways. Gazer Beam remembered the password from when he was on the team, and he carved it. But at the end of my second video, I highlighted something very interesting. Clearly Mirage, the assistant, is a worker for the US government. She was sent to Nomanison Island because Syndrome was working with the US government, though they didn't know of his secret agenda. Some even believe Mirage was a spy, which I fully agree with, as the government was likely suspicious of Syndrome and they would have sent her in. But I've also been driven to believe that she has something seriously wrong with her. In part 2, I talked about how Syndrome's planes and gadgets, they all share the same system of artificial intelligence. Syndrome used his superb intelligence to create it all, and once he dominated his new base, he spread his AI through all of his machines, vehicles, robots, all across the island. These artificial intelligences have personalities, and they learn as they go. Some of them even comprehend some level of emotion, as seen in how the Omnidroid can oftentimes hold a bit of a grudge. These artifices spread his AI through all superb intelligence too. They all share the same with her. In part 2, I talked about how Syndrome's planes and gadgets, they all share the same system of artificial
My brain kind of went, bro.
Syndrome used his superb intelligence to create it all. And once he dominated his new base, he spread his AI through...
Sorry for having to go back. My brain kind of just zoomed out there for a little bit. I don't know what was happening.
Robots all across the island. These artificial intelligences have personalities.
They do.
Learn as they go. Some of them even comprehend some level of emotion, as seen in how the Omnidroid can oftentimes hold a bit of a grudge after failing to kill a target. Mirage is very distinctly intriguing. Her name is something to note. Clearly, it's a codename, Mirage. As most of you should know, a mirage is an illusion.
It's an illusion, yeah.
Not real. And while she does act like a bit of a chameleon, shifting her personality rapidly depending on her environment, the name Mirage, I feel, means something deeper, almost like she herself is not real. Mirage almost sounds like a name given to a product of beta testing, almost like how the Nintendo Wii was codenamed Revolution, or the GameCube was codenamed Dolphin. Mirage sounds like a name, but not a given one, or not even really a spy name. And while it could allude to her chameleon nature with the shifting personality, that doesn't explain why she has that name to begin with, because the only people who really notice this personality are we, watching the movie, and it wouldn't make sense for someone in this movie's universe to name her that. You get what I mean? Also, when she approaches Mr. Incredible for the very first time, her introduction is something shocking when you realize what it can mean. She says, according to the government, neither of us exist.
Yeah.
Whoa. Now, that can mean
Can't
she's a
government
spy who
exist.
has had her citizenship files deleted, sort of like Mr. Incredible has, but that seems too obvious and doesn't really apply to her. Also, she was talking about how Mr. Incredible had his citizen files deleted, so it's unlikely that she'd refer to herself in the same way by using a complex metaphor, which leaves only one remaining possibility, that she's not real in the sense of not human. Almost like a cyborg, a very advanced one that contains an extremely advanced AI
What?
created by Syndrome, which works alongside the entire AI that runs the island. But she seems to seriously struggle when Mr. Incredible chokes her, implying there's no way she's made of metal.
Yeah.
And she seems to have emotion, leading me to believe that either her AI has advanced too far, or she may have something even deeper going on. The concept of her being a spy is top-notch and excellent.
It
but
is.
Here's what I think. I think Syndrome has controlled her to some extent with the psychic powers inherited from his mother.
Oh!
His super intellect, of course, as I've said, was accompanied by psychic powers which he used to kill
Yes.
his mother and the rest of her hero team,
Of course.
inconspicuously, but with swift efficiency. My question about being robotic or hypnotized not only applies to Mirage, but to Syndrome's whole entire team of almost robotic henchmen.
Yeah, they
Each
seem...
one identical.
The henchmen seem very robotic-like, because they all function the exact same way. They don't have, like, any emotion. They just do what Syndrome tells them to do. Almost like... Yeah, almost like they're either AI, or through some crazy thing, Syndrome hypnotized all of them into being his henchmen. And if they were hypnotized, who are the henchmen that Syndrome hypnotized?
To the last. I've always believed that they were some version of an AI he created, hence their superhuman reflexes and ability to fly their hoverships so accurately, but a commenter suggested a secondary idea, which I'd already believed from Mirage, that Syndrome is instilling fear into them all
Of
with his
course.
powers and intellect, and is using his psychic abilities to amplify it to a stage at which they robotically follow his every command. Think about it. They all obey literally every command.
They do.
They are incredibly one-dimensional, and they celebrate at the death of tons of humans by drinking, presumably champagne, while having a party in an RV. But they do still have a party, and they do have emotions, meaning that they can't be simple robots. Conclusion? They've been psychically manipulated into convincing themselves that what they're doing is morally correct.
Of course.
It's adding yet another layer of
It makes
complexity
sense.
onto this already scary situation. Mirage has been manipulated, but we know she too isn't a robot because she defies Syndrome in the end. Now, this could just be the AI becoming too smart for its own good, but it's far more likely that Syndrome has been distracted by Mirage's so-called love towards him, weakening his hypnosis on him. So, in summary, Syndrome, also known as Buddy Pine, is the child of Psychwave and, most likely, Universal Man.
Yes.
Parents who were rarely around because they were doing hero work. Buddy Pine looked up to Mr. Incredible, a hero who saved the city constantly.
Of course.
When he was turned down by Mr. Incredible repeatedly, Buddy gave up. His powers had already started to develop, his intellect and minor psychic powers coming from his mother, and his zero-point energy beams inherited from his matter-shifting father. His parents, or more specifically his mother, had been fighting in a civil war with her own team of heroes, in which Gazerbeam was ejected from their team, and they accepted a new person in. Their secret island base, Nomanison Island, was of course also partially owned by the NSA, also known as the National Supers Agency, a government agency that aimed to organize and aid superheroes. After Buddy's revenge plan was initiated, his rage and motivation surpassed that of any love he had for his always absent parents. He then killed his father with his very first Omni Drone.
Yes.
Second on his list was his mother, who just so happened to be killed by Buddy Pine right after Universal Man.
Yeah.
Killing her
and that's what opened up a whole new world of opportunities. As he advanced his artificially intelligent machines, he found all of Psychwave's files regarding the NSA and the plans for supers. With utter ease, Syndrome found No Madison Island, and as we see on the kill list, he instantly killed every single member on Psychwave's team.
He did,
order,
yeah.
Following his infiltration of their island. He found their computer, typed in the password Psychwave had in her files, and used the NSA's information to track down and hunt all of the other superheroes. Using the millions of dollars he gained by selling his machines to the US government, he built up No Madison Island into his base. Now fully able to utilize his zero-point energy inherited from his father, and the super-intellectual psychic powers inherited from his mother. He then brought in Mirage. Likely a recommendation by the US government, a woman
And he psychologically hypnotized her.
When in actuality, she's secretly a spy who will feed information back to the government. But Syndrome flipped the situation on the government when he psychically controlled her, causing all information she fed back to the government to be lies. This fully explains why the government never made a move on Madison Island. Mirage was hypnotized into telling them that everything was fine, and Syndrome wasn't killing anyone. Buddy Pine chose not to change the computer's password, as not only did it personally resonate with him, but it also wasn't a problem. Nobody could surpass him. He,
of course.
like all villains, was cocky. He then began killing more heroes, one of which was Gazerbeam, who died in a cave beneath the island. But Gazerbeam knew things, because as the bonus...
Yeah, he knew the password. He knew the password, wrote it there, for people to find and then see all the shit that was going on. Because he knew that Syndrome was killing all these supers.
Was, in fact, a part of the team. Until, remember, he was kicked out in the Civil War. He used the last of his powers to engrave what he remembered to be the supercomputer's password into the walls, and then he died. As Buddy Pine's plan continued, we finally got to see his defeat in the movie, after he'd manipulated and psychically entranced hundreds of henchmen and advanced his AI to an unimaginable point. He was still defeated by the fact that his small love for Mirage distracted him. Damn you, side chicks! What a brilliant plan, what a brilliant theory of mine. Wow, you know, her incredibly thin body might finally be explained. She's one of the only Pixar characters with freakishly abnormal bodily proportions. Must be a robot. Or, as we know, maybe not. Until next time, I'm the Theorizer. And that'll have a ton of Incredibles 2 theories coming down the pipeline. Get hyped.
And the next video that we do will be the Incredibles 2 theory, but I'm gonna end it here for now. The Syndrome Trilogy theory has been completed. Very, very good theory from the Theorizer yet again. Did it once with the Roz Trilogy theory, and now did it again with the Syndrome Trilogy theory. Pretty awesome shit. We're nearing the baby spinning theory. 2 more videos left until that theory gets reacted to live on my channel, and then we'll do the Mort theory, which, by the way, it's gonna be the biggest one. Like 23 parts, 23 parts to the Mort theory. The Theorizer also did confirm that I do not need to watch all Hurricane Julian stuff to get everything that goes on, because he probably goes over it in detail in these theories. But yeah, that'll be it for the Syndrome Trilogy theory. I'll see all of you in the next video. Later.